Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
All right.
Hey, we are back. It's Tuesday night with Ben Stowe. That means it is time. Where in the world is Ben Stowe? I mean, we're going to play that game to start with.
You know, I had that, when you check in at the airport and they ask you, is your destination, whatever. I honestly was like, I don't know. Like, whatever it says, that's where I'm going. What difference does it make, right? So, but I know actually for a fact where I am today. I am just outside of Nashville. We'll just say I'm in Nashville and broadcasting live from the home studio of the legendary Tyler Hacker, who is one of our viewers and friends.
Excellent. Wonderful. Yeah. Well, that is very nice of Tyler to get you all set up tonight, so we can.
He did. He went through a lot of fuss. He's got it all. He's like, okay, I got the Stream Deck here and this and the PTZ camera. Like, usually I just do this from my laptop, man, but that's cool. Yeah, so he really went to great lengths to make sure that I felt at home. So
excellent, good stuff. So tonight we've got a couple of our segments we'll be doing this evening, so we can go through and kind of get you guys going with a couple of great questions that we have that Ben's going to dive into. So Ben, we're going to start off with, we'll put our break in here for our joke of the week. Here we go. All right, Ben, we've been waiting patiently for this week's joke because we figured that, you're going to just be upping the game just a little bit each and every week.
I've been leaning on my friends and, Rocky's off the hook because I don't think it was his joke last week. I debated long and hard about whether or not to tell this joke, but okay, I didn't really. I just decided to go for it because this comes to us from another loyal viewer, my friend Aaron. So it's his fault. I just want you to know that.
Just right out there.
Yeah, we'll be posting Aaron's number and home address.
It'd be great.
No. So, what do subwoofers and DJs' personal hygiene have in common?
Okay, what do subwoofers and DJs' personal hygiene? I have no idea what they have in common.
And again, this is from Aaron.
Yep,
okay,
yeah.
The low frequency.
The low frequency for personal hygiene. I understand. I get that.
Some DJs. We should put an asterisk in there. If you're watching this show, it's definitely not you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You're the. Yeah,
right. DJs who do not watch the show are the unwashed masses, and therefore they have poor personal hygiene. So,
oh yeah, we've got to get a little asterisk in a corner with that one.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the joke of the week because it is probably the last joke of the week. So,
let's get to our first. Through this. Let's see. Actually, what do we got? We got the joke of the week, and then we got the. Let's do question one, then we'll come back and do it's a question one. All right, Ben, our first question, I went and found a couple of them online here this past week that I thought were kind of interesting. And somebody was talking about power amplifiers. And, of course, we grew up with these separate power amplifiers, which, of course, you use every day. But for us as mobile DJs, we haven't seen that in a long time. But they were asking, they've got some of those big ones from the 1980s. And specifically, they mentioned the CS800 from PV, which...
That is so funny that you picked the CS800. You'll see why in a second.
Yeah, that's what they're wondering.
That is so funny because that's literally the example that I put in here, and I had no idea you were going to pick that. It's the perfect. It's like if you're going to take a cliche amplifier, that's it, right?
And now,
so anyway, carry on. Yes.
So those, that was a big amplifier for us, literally big in multiple ways in the 80s and early 90s. And they're wondering amplifiers from that generation compared to newer amplifiers. Can those old ones still function, and should a person use those, or should a person upgrade because the new ones are bringing more to the table? And if so, what are they bringing to the table that's additional?
Well, there's a lot of questions in that sentence. Do the old ones still function? Well, they can, and if they're clean and they're well maintained, a Class A/B amplifier is a very good sounding amplifier. So
Now,
I don't want to just
kind of. We've talked about this in other shows, but let's make sure we hit on this a little bit about what the AB is, because I'm used to now. Everything we talk about is digital.
Class D, right? Yeah. Well, it's kind of a misnomer. D is not really digital. That's kind of a misnomer, but it does sort of work like a pulse width modulation. But AB is a purely analog, and it's sort of a hybrid between Class A amplifiers and Class B amplifiers, and I think we'll get in the woods a little bit if we start getting into the amplifier topology a little bit here. But we'll just say, you know what? I'm going to do it with a slide. Let me do this. We're going to say that basically you have these Class AB amplifiers, which, again, ran on a purely analog type circuit. Transistors principally handle the the increase in the signal to our output level. And then Class D is what we, really use for the most part today. And hopefully you can still see me because I lost you. So.
Yep, you're in the corner. You're in the corner there. I'm going to make sure that they're getting the full.
Thank you. Yes.
Get the full thing.
Tyler's fancy setup here. Anyway, so there you are. You over there?
Yeah, I'm somewhere. There we go. Now we've got it. We've got everything on there, so you're full on the screen. That was
okay. Cool. So what you can see is this fancy little pie chart I made. Basically showing what happens here, and basically we talked about this. I think even as recently as last week, how in the old days these old amplifiers we had, really got hot. And for those of us doing gigs in Minnesota, that could be a nice thing in the wintertime or the fall. We'd sort of huddle around our amp rack. And warm ourselves up. But the reason for that is a lot of the power we were bringing in from the wall didn't get to the speakers as audio. It just simply got turned into heat. So they're very inefficient, and you can see the pie chart. And there's another one that should probably go in the middle of these, a Class H amplifier. But we're going to just skip Class H and go right to Class D because, like you said, pretty much everything we're using now, powered speakers and whatnot, is Class D. And you can see that the amount of energy that is converted to audio and not wasted as heat or dissipated as heat is substantially different. So funny that you mentioned the CS 800 because that is exactly the amp that I pulled as a... And I thought this was just kind of fun, and I really just picked two amps very quickly because it kind of made the point. But you can see the Class AB CS 800 amplifier there, 300 watts per channel at 4 ohms for a total of 600 watts, weighs about 50 pounds. And this amp below, a PowerSoft amp, which is a Class D, is 3,000 watts per channel, and it is 8 channels, not 2. So not only is it 10 times more per channel, it also has 4 times more channels, and it's 1 rack space smaller, and it also weighs about 50 pounds. So the level of efficiency and the difference between those things in that regard is simply astounding.
Yeah.
I would say beyond that, though, there's a couple other things. A lot of the amplifiers now have DSPs on board, digital signal processors. So things like our EQ, our crossover, speaker presets, that sort of thing.
And could you go back to that picture of the CS800? Because there were things back in that day that when Ben pops it up there, you can see little round things on the kind of the left half there. We would plug modules into that thing to get to get some of that functionality.
Right there, yeah. Let's get my annotation tool here, right there. Oh, it's not drawn. Come on. Oh no. All right. Tyler is officially his getup is officially too
fancy. That's okay. But that's funny that the CS800 had some of the capabilities, but we had to plug a little can into the back of it.
Well, and what we had there were these, analog crossover modules or something. We didn't have the ability to go in and do tuned EQ. We didn't have the ability to go in and make adjustments as we saw fit. We didn't have FIR filters where we could have brick wall crossovers and things like that. So we did, it was an entirely different era, without a doubt. So I think to answer the question is, could you still use an amp from the 90s or 80s? You could. If they're clean and well taken care of, they probably sound great. But they're heavy, they're inefficient, and they lack a lot of the features. It's amazing. We just upgraded some amplifiers in an arena, and replaced only 15-year-old 2-channel amps with new 4-channel amps, and these are a high grade amp. But was able to put the tuning in there, and without changing, I mean, not literally one other thing, same loudspeakers, same cabling, everything else. People, from the arena staff, they're like, "Wow, what a difference in sound!" And it was just an upgrade of an amplifier from just 15 years ago. And these were a high level amp they bought 15 years ago and a high level amp they bought now. So, there's some, been some technological advances without a doubt.
Interesting. That you wouldn't. 15 years doesn't sound that much because of how long we've been doing this, and yet there's that much difference.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that long. I mean, it's funny because you think about take the 90s, 95, 30 years ago was 65. And, you think about, obviously a lot of significant things happened in 65. You're like, wow, that was like, ancient history. But then you think, well, 95 was 30 years ago to 2025. So 95 was our 1965. So I guess it was that long ago.
It was, was a while and a half. Yeah, that's for sure. Another thing that I found kind of interesting is looking back. I actually found the other day one of my receipts from one of the first amplifiers we purchased and such, and it's if you go with the inflation and where amplifier pricing and such is, it isn't. We're paying about the equivalent value, or money wise,
or even less,
or less.
I mean, we're getting a lot more for our money right now.
That part is just kind of actually. It's like, wow, we paid a lot back then.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of money you paid based on what you brought in, and like you said, adjusted for inflation and for features, I think we're getting the most for our money we've ever got right now, and it doesn't feel like it sometimes, especially when you're used to, paying a smaller dollar amount. But the fact is, everything else has gone up too, and that's just how inflation works. That's how appreciation of the currency works.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it works with eggs, but I mean,
yeah, that's another topic for another show. I think that might be the 9:30 show tonight. Yeah, that's a 9:30 show.
I mean, when we saw the toilet paper shortage.
Yeah,
and now eggs are, I don't know, $40 a carton. You got people standing in alleys selling a single eggs in Ziploc bags, and the cops come and break that up. But I mean, like, when we were kids, I mean, eggs and toilet paper were so plentiful, we would throw them at our neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not me, of course. But,
I'm guessing that the next thing is either going to be a shortage of soap or it's going to be of shaving cream, because those were the next things that we had so much of them that we did the windows. Yeah.
Well, especially after we called out people on their hygiene, it's going to create a demand.
There is that. All right, let's jump to our next segment. So Ben, you showed a picture this past week, and I wanted to kind of have you kind of talk about that, because I know where you were, and it's a cool place, but well, let's kind of.
It's cool, all right.
Yeah, I guess See what I did there.
Yeah, I'll just share the picture because I think that's what you're talking about. This one.
Yes, that is. So first off, what took you up there besides ice fishing? I mean, that's what that world is up there.
No, I wish. I was actually doing some training at a venue near there, about 45 minutes away, and it occurred to me, weird as this is, that I had been to the southernmost point of the contiguous U.S. down in Key West, and had never been to the northernmost. And I guess really for people that are kind of wondering, let me just see if I can get my annotation thing going here. Let's see. What is going on with this thing? All right, it's working. Okay, good.
There we go.
Okay, for those just tuning in, I'm borrowing a computer here. I'm at a friend's house in Nashville, so trying to find. He's a very smart guy, and he's got things all over the place here. All right, so if this is showing,
we can see it. Yep, the little pointers right in Minnesota there.
Yep. So this is where I was, and this is where I live. And so anyway, I was working up there, and basically just thought, it's weird that I live that close and I'd never been there.
Mm-hmm.
And so some friends from the venue where I was working said, well, we'll take you. And you actually have to drive through Canada to get there. Now, in the wintertime, which it is now, you can take a direct route, by snowmobile because the lake is frozen. You can snowmobile across the lake, but I really was not in the mood for that because it was like minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm like, yeah, let's stay in the car. I think, call me what you want. I don't care. So yeah, we took the winding road through Canada twice to get there, and then back through the U.S. twice to get home, and it was kind of neat to go to that northernmost point.
Yeah,
You are in the middle of nowhere for sure.
Literally, yeah, it's up there. It's a little chunk of land, and for those of you wondering, they do open a road across the ice for cars at a certain point in time, and there's a fee for this to go across that. And for some folks, that's especially when they couldn't go into Canada because of things being shut down. That was a huge thing for the folks who lived in the Northwest Angle. That's what that little spot is called. So.
Yep, you're 100% right. And of course, maybe 50 feet to over my left shoulder from that picture is where the ice road begins. And there's a big sign that says ice road, pay here.
Yep.
So.
But when I saw that, I lived up in that neck of the woods, not on the Northwest Angle, but at that time, because we didn't have internet and the TV and everything, it was really an experience of isolation. And as I was seeing that, and it just kind of flashed back to just being in that alone feeling for a moment. And then I was thinking, it's like, Ben travels a lot and he's all over the world, and there's so many times in this world nowadays you can be alone in a crowd. And I was thinking, it's like, in your travels though, you do things differently, that you're not, yes, there's the loneliness because you're not with family and such, but you've got, extended family.
Well, I think so. I think that, the modern tools we have for communication are just that. They're tools, and you can choose to use them or not use them. I don't want to speak to anybody's personal situation, but I find that I'm not alone in or out of a crowd, and usually that's a good thing. To me, I love the connectedness. I love that, through this show and through the work that you and I've done and through this industry, I've made friends all over. Was visiting friends in Phoenix. One we'll see a little later, I think, in the show. I'm at a friend's in Nashville right now doing this show here. And if it wasn't for the communication tools that we have, those friendships wouldn't have, grown or fostered. To be at the, literal middle of nowhere at the northernmost point in the United States and be able to share a picture, via social media and have people react to that. And in the post, I mentioned I was going to Nashville, and I had friends from every walk of life reach out and say, well, be sure to look me up while you're here, and in fact, my dance card kind of got full, and one friend who works for a touring country artist here, we couldn't find the time to make it work. And I said, we're going to see each other this summer anyway. I guarantee it. There's no way our paths are not going to cross, but I'm going to be able to see a few friends, and I think maybe where you're going with that is that, we have this ability, like you said, to be connected all the time and to foster these friendships. But I think at the same time, like you said, you can be alone in a crowd. And I think that probably doesn't speak to the technology so much as probably more something deeper, something I'm not really qualified to talk about. I think, and I guess I have felt that way too at times, where I have hundreds of friends, and many people I could call friends, but sometimes you do feel alone. And I think that's maybe because you don't feel like people would be able to, understand what you are thinking or fearing or dealing with or whatever, or, particularly when you, when you manage people, it's some of your, biggest struggles are things you can't share with them because they might be, part of that, not that they're the problem, but, but it relates to them.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, well, who can I talk to about this heavy thing that's weighing on my mind, right? And I think there's a lot of other people that, and again, this is not something I'm qualified to talk about, but certainly depression is a real thing, and people, maybe struggle from that, and the fact that people are a keystroke away doesn't help, because it doesn't really get to the heart of the issue. So I don't know. I hope people would use technology that way, though, to reach out, because I think there are a lot of people who, I like to be connected, and I'd love to be connected to the people that are watching. So.
And I think that you are, when you're going to these different locations, you're seeing and able to meet up with people, or you've crashed on couches in different cities, and that connection that you're going, that face-to-face connection, I think is so valuable and so needed in this day and age. And it was one of the big things that was really tough about 2020. While it was nice to be having some benefits, but we didn't have that connection outside of our immediate family and a few coworkers. And it's you can see your energy when you're with groups like that is different. And it's
I'm a people person, not to quote Office Space, but I'm a people person, and you're right. I've crashed on couches, and you might be thinking, well, why does the president of this company crash on couches? I mean, and I'll tell you, I stay in a lot of hotels. I'm a gold or platinum member with 3 or 4 different hotel chains. I stay in more than my share of hotels, probably more than is healthy. So that's one of the reasons that the couches are kind of nice. It's like, you're sort of amongst family, you're sort of amongst friends, and it doesn't, you can get a little bit alone and isolated in a hotel room. It might be quieter, it might be more comfortable. I stayed with a friend who's got kids and said, "I'm sorry, my kids," and I said, "Man, I'm loving it. It's great." It's like, I feel like I have an adopted family for a few days, because, obviously mine is, 1,500 miles away, and also kind of grown up, to that end, I have to call out my youngest, because my youngest sent
Wait a second,
text.
she's pretty spunky. I don't know. You got to be careful here.
I'm not.
Okay.
So
you're braver than I.
I realize that they will decide what nursing home I go to, and I don't care. So my youngest texted me asking for a ride. And first of all, my youngest is 16, so they should have a driver's license and they should be able to drive themselves. But I digress. That's neither here nor there. But second of all, it's apparently been lost on them that I'm not even in the state.
That shows you how much you're paying attention.
Yeah. So I did get a better text after that. Kind of, oops, sorry. I'm like, Talk about making a guy feel alone.
Yeah, there it is.
I'm like, well, how far are you from Nashville?
Yeah,
let's get over and get you.
I'll get right on that one.
Phoenix a couple days ago, Fargo here in a couple days, Vegas a couple days after that. I'm like, I should just tell my kids, like, just
I'll send you a picture. It'll be great. All right,
exactly. Yeah,
let's get to our next question. Okay, our next question is someone who is looking to be adding trussing to their DJ company. They were trying to get into some larger dances, whether it's high school or corporate, but they figured that they wanted to get into trussing. And they were asking what kind of things should they be looking out for, thinking about when it comes to getting into trussing to hang lighting and such.
I think first of all, it comes down to the application. One of my favorite toys when I was a kid was an erector set. I like, you could take parts and build things, and truss is really like a erector set for grown-ups. And I love that challenge. So I've got some pictures here of some different ways that we could use truss, and really the same truss in a lot of ways. So because again, they're just pieces. You can put them together in different ways if you like. So we can do, cubes or rectangles, and these are just oversimplifications, right? Here's something a little bit funkier. We got a circle truss in the middle, and just take the pieces you want and build the shape you want. And then we've got things like simple arch trusses, all the way down to something as simple as a totem. So I think it comes down to application. A few other ways that we might use truss would be like horizontal for lighting, or hanging a video wall. But here we can see some totems in the background. So just some versatility there on how we use that. And then maybe something a little more conventional. We got, this is what we call PRT, pre-rig truss, where it stays inside the truss, the lights do, everything stays wired, and then these sections go together, and it's faster to rig and whatnot. That's a little bit more purpose built.
Sure.
But when we get into segments, you can take these different pieces and put them together any way you want. So I think first thing is application. What do you want to do? Because if you're going to have a horizontal load, that obviously has different requirements than just a totem. We can get by with something pretty light duty here. So let's take a look at some things here. You'll notice this screenshot of a truss listing from a manufacturer's site says 2 mm wall.
Okay.
And that's fairly common for this type of truss.
What are they referring to when you say 2 mm wall?
Thank you for asking. So these truss cords here, the big tubes on the 4 big tubes that make up the structural bulk of the truss, that aluminum has a wall thickness of 2 mm.
Okay.
So it's basically how thick is this metal? And you can get 3 mm, and you can also get 1 mm.
Okay.
And 1 mm would kind of worry me a bit. I wouldn't use it for horizontal things. It's not going to be as strong. It's pretty thin. I'm like, I don't know.
Sure.
For a totem, fine, because you're not going to put enough weight on that thing and vertically, and whether or not it's strong enough horizontally, you should just look at the manufacturer's data, which we'll look at in a second. But again, knowing that there's a difference, because on the outside it all looks the same and it's all the same diameter, but you don't know what it is. The other thing I would say is know where you're buying it from. Not every manufacturer maybe is. I guess this is where I would stick to somebody that I trust. I don't know that I would buy truss from an unknown source, because is it really 2 mm? Is it really the grade of aluminum they have said it is? Is it going to perform the way I expect it to? More on that in a minute. So there are also different types of truss. This is what we call spigoted. These spigots go in the end, and then this is what we call bolted, or plated. Sometimes call it plated because it's got plates on the end. But so a bolt truss or plated truss and spigoted truss, where here the spigots join together, and then here you put the 2 sections together and put bolts in the end. So those are the most common 2 types of truss when we get down to that. We talked a little bit about, the structural integrity. Here we can see a data sheet for some global truss, and we've got some loading charts here. We know how strong it is, and whether we're using UDP or center point load, or how we're loading that truss, right?
Okay.
So basically, it can be a lot to look at, but it's really helpful. If you need to hang a Volkswagen over a crowd of people, you should do the math.
Sure.
And if you don't have the right stuff used the right way, stuff happens. These are structural systems. Trusses are, and you're probably not doing something this size or scale, but I guess the point is, it's not something we should do willy-nilly. Yeah. So I think it all comes down to application. What do you want to do with the truss? And I'll tell you, because we couldn't possibly answer it all in this segment. That's where you just want to get with a partner, a partner vendor like us at NLFX, or another partner vendor that you trust, and trust anyway.
Trust.
Yeah. So, let's talk. Don't expect us to tell you in absolutes, because we're not structural engineers, but we're going to guide you to the solutions, and we're going to sell you reputable products, So I think we can help guide you away from some real pitfalls. So.
And as far as there's with the options and such, we showed a few pictures of some of the different kind of designs. But really, there are just so many different connections and corners and things that you can almost literally design something on paper and say, "Hey, Ben, can this be made out of truss?" And
we do it all the time too. We draw stuff up for clients, similarly. But yeah, I mean, you really can. You can just kind of draw it on paper and put the dimensions to it, and we could take a look, and again, all we can do is work within the guidance and the parameters of the manufacturers, but we can help do some of the conversions. Some truss is measured in feet, some truss is measured in metric, but we're probably more aware than most people of what some of the various pieces are. I've helped a few customers who have said, I need to do this, or how do I do this? And I'll fire back a part, and they're like, that's amazing. I'm like, no, it's just a part, but, New to you, not new to us, and that's why we're here, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's everybody's got their calling. So
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about color, because when I first started looking at truss back in when we bought those amplifiers we talked about earlier, we had one option. Pretty much, you were getting the aluminum color, and of course, most of those were coming from a band because we couldn't afford new, and they were all But the manufacturers are doing much more with that today.
yeah, you know, you can generally buy truss in two colors, polished aluminum and black, are pretty much readily available from just about everybody. You can also get them custom powder coated and coat place in your own city if you have a need for specific colors. Obviously, this is not something you do on a per event basis. You know, when it's powder coated, it's powder coated. But you know, there are situations where you know there's an arena that has a painted green ceiling, and so they've powder coated all their truss green, and they just leave it up there. They've got permanent motor hangs and things, so when they would need to drop in curtains for concerts and whatnot, so that would be a situation where you know you can get the colors that maybe suit you better. Maybe you've got a vision for your company and you want all white trussing. You can certainly do that. You know, we can have that powder coated for you, or again, you can powder coat it at a place maybe in your town.
Excellent. Excellent. And again, links in the description of the video, nlfxpro.com. You can go there. You can find a phone number to give them a call and talk. And you can go search trussing on the website. You're going to see a lot of different options and pieces out there. And then give them a call and talk a little bit, and they'll help kind of guide you to what's in your best interest when it comes to going that direction.
Yeah, like you said, trussing's on our site, but I think it's one of those things I probably wouldn't buy on the website. I probably wouldn't just add to cart for trussing. I think that's unless you need a stick and you know exactly what you want. I think that's one of those things where it's going to benefit you to have a conversation. It certainly doesn't cost you any more to have a conversation, and many times we can work out some special pricing for you too. So
excellent.
I think it's one of those things that you're going to want to talk to somebody.
Good advice. Okay, so our last little bonus question, I wanted to do this, is because last week after the show was over, do you have that picture yet?
I do have that picture.
Okay,
yeah.
so,
you want me
so
to find it?
this, yeah, please pop that up, and then I've got a question about that.
All right. Let's see. This picture?
Right there. Ben, after our show, they went out and they got ice cream last week, and it made me think.
Yep. That's my friend Thomas, by the way. He's also a regular viewer, so
and he
thanks.
was
He's watching tonight.
Got to see him last week, and thanks for helping out last week, Thomas. But we need to update the top 3 favorite ice cream flavors from Ben Stowe.
You know,
these are the kind of questions that people really spend time with, because then when you come to town, they know where to go.
It's all good. You know, it's easier to pick favorite kids. I can knock that out right away. Like, I know, yeah. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's so. I mean, you could talk about like ice cream you can buy in the carton, and I'm all over the map. I mean, I just I have so many I like, and then you could talk about these monstrosities like what Thomas and I got.
That was pretty awesome. Those look pretty good, I got to say.
Man, I'll tell you what, I like going to places like that. Like you know, you buy this thing that sort of resembles a shake, and it's going to stop your heart. But I mean, it's been a pretty good run. So you know. I don't know. I don't know that I could. I would say that, ironically, since that was like a chocolate peanut butter thing, chocolate is not one of my favorites. But you know, every now and then you kind of be like, well, let's do some chocolate. You know, so. But yeah, gosh, I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to start, and I certainly couldn't limit it to 3 or 5. No. I can go to Baskin Robbins and eat about 30 of the 31, I think. So, you know.
Except, of course, the
chocolate. Literally, it's like, I mean, you could have like, you know, I like, you know, vanilla, but not like vanilla. I mean, like, you know, vanilla bean that's got, you know, some light texture to it. I like weird stuff like rum raisin. I mean, it's terrible. Pina colada ice cream. I don't know, John. There's not a bad ice cream. I particularly love, you know, things like pistachio and blueberry cheesecake, and I can name about 50 more that I particularly love. It's kind of like, you know, it's like when somebody says I specialize in these 500 things, you know. Anyway, yeah. So I like my top 500 flavors are, you know.
Oh, that's
all good. Listen, I think the takeaway here, viewers, is if I'm in your town and you want to go out for ice cream and you're worried that I'm not going to like what I will. Okay.
Yeah. Be confident he will.
That's right.
Good stuff there, Ben.
Ask Thomas, he'll tell you. My biggest dilemma was trying to figure out what to get and trying to decide if I should only get one, because these things look pretty big. So I was like, I don't know what to get. It wasn't because nothing looked good. It's because it all looked good.
Every looked good. Yeah. Oh, fabulous stuff. Well, Ben, thank you very much for getting the answers for the questions tonight. Again, the link is in the description of the video, nlfxpro.com. You can go out there and check out some of the trussing and things we talked about tonight. And if you've got questions, bounce out there to the staff during the day. They will get back to you, or they'll pick up the phone, whichever works, and they'll, if you're messaging or whatever, they will get in touch and let you find out your next great light show with your trussing and such. So. And then safely. We didn't even get into that, the whole safety issue, because we did a show on that where we talked about trussing and I mean, there was a one where you were up in the rafters. I have been up in the rafters a few times. That was. But that's another show. Even today a few times. So yeah. In the video we did a show really digging into power amplifiers a few years back, and that link is into the chat. So if you guys are interested in kind of digging a little bit more into it, where Ben actually went inside some amplifiers, that is in the chat. You can click and watch that video. It's about a 40-minute video, somewhere in that ballpark, when we did that a couple of years ago. So check it out, and we will be back again next week with the Tuesday night with Ben Stowe. Good night, everybody.